Hello and welcome to Public Conscience, the anti-corruption program produced by the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, Primorg. I am Chidozie Obonnaya with Esther Bassi.
Thanks for joining us. The spelling of Primorg is Primorg.
On Public Conscience, we seek to evolve a corruption-free society by drawing government and citizens' attention to corruption reports and issues for prompt democratic actions against them. We also promote integrity by amplifying the records of the display of honesty by public and private individuals. We appreciate the MacArthur Foundation for supporting the production of this program.
Today's program will focus on the fight against corruption, not just in Nigeria but across the West African sub-region, and the renewed advocacy for whistleblower legislation.
All right. Over the years, Nigeria and other African countries have been plagued by public sector corruption. Corruption takes place in a wide variety of ways, including bribery, extortion, fraud, cartels, abuse of power, embezzlement, and money laundering. And according to the African Union, about $140,000 billion is lost, US dollars actually, is lost to corruption by countries in the continent every year.
Well, whistleblowing as an anti-corruption tool is not new in the continent. It will be recalled that the federal government rolled out a whistleblowing policy in 2016 to prevent fraud and embezzlement of public funds, among other vices. It is sad to note that a lot of gains of the policy may have been eroded due to lack of adequate protection and legislation of whistleblowing.
The disturbing reality is that more citizens are weary and skeptical about reporting corrupt acts. Hence the need for us to continue making a strong case for whistleblower law in Nigeria and the West African sub-region. For you out there, what do you make of the whistleblowing as a tool in the fight against corruption? How do you think Nigeria has fared under whistleblower policy, which we've been running over the years? What do you think is hindering the passage of whistleblower law in Nigeria? Would you still blow the whistle against corruption under the present circumstances? Why do you think most countries in Africa do not have specific laws protecting whistleblowers? Many questions begging for answers.
Of course, Desiree, but for you out there, be ready to join us through phone and text messages during this conversation. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 0902 265 6167. That is 0902 265 6167. Please indicate your name and your location when sending your message. This number is for messages only.
Please begin to send your messages as soon as possible to 09022656167. That is 09022656167. We will give out the phone numbers to call shortly.
Well, if you just joined us, the focus is on the fight against corruption in Nigeria and across the West African sub-region and the renewed advocacy for whistleblowing or whistleblower legislation.
And most countries in Africa, as we said earlier, do not have inclusive law. Like Nigeria inclusive do not have laws, specific ones protecting whistleblowers. And in some countries, in Nigeria, enforcement is even lacking. That is the issues we are trying to deal with. For joining us to expound on the forthcoming conference and the challenges of Nigeria and other African countries in actualizing whistleblower legislation is the program manager at the African Center for Media and Information Literacy, AfricMeo, Godwin Onyachelem. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, let's start off with you. A lot of work on whistleblower legislation, on institutionalizing it, strengthening the fight against corruption, but for the benefit of some Nigerians who may not even be aware of what is going on. How much important a tool is whistleblowing in the fight against corruption in Nigeria and in the sub-region?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, it's so important that you cannot fight corruption without an insider, and then the stiffer the penalties, unless the penalties are stiffer for corruption, I mean, all anti-corruption laws will be useless. So the the ECOWAS Commission has recognized that one of the best methods to expose corrupt acts and then foster accountability in the management of institutions, whether public or private, is through whistleblowing. So they decided that exposing early detection, is the best way to go in fighting corruption. And what does that mean? So they are saying that countries, member countries along the West African sub-region should, as much as possible, have a legal framework, to protect people who stick out, courageous citizens who stick out their neck to make disclosures, to blow the whistle. So that's where we are. So, but then it's even before 2016, when this ECOWAS came up with its there's a protocol on the fight against corruption and supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance. Even before that was in 2016. Even before then, Ghana has, enacted its own whistleblower legislation. That was in 2006. So, if you look across West Africa, the only country that has a whistleblower protection legislation is Ghana.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So, and since 2006. So, in order to facilitate, to ensure to fight against corruption, to ensure a coordination among West African states in the fight against corruption, the ECOWAS Commission also helped, facilitated the establishment of what is called the Network of Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA. So different countries have, anti-corruption institutions. So they came together to form this NACIWA, and this was facilitated by the ECOWAS Commission. As we speak today, NACIWA Secretariat is in Abuja, and the headquarters, the Secretariat of NACIWA is in Abuja, and then the chairman of EFCC, is the president of NACIWA. Yeah, currently, yes.
Interestingly, it's amazing, or it's kind of a misfeeling that how come we want to fight corruption, and in most African countries, just like you said, at least in West Africa, we see that it's only Ghana. What does it even say? Let's come from Nigeria, Nigeria is the giant of Africa, so to say. What does it say about us as a country that really want to fight corruption?
Yeah, what is obvious is that the will to fight corruption in Nigeria has not been genuinely demonstrated by the office holders, the political leaders. So the will is absent, because since the clamor to have a whistleblower protection legislation has been on since around early 2000, So, but up to now, the only thing we have is a policy, which was, introduced in 2016. And then you expect that the government that introduced that policy in 2016, Buhari government specifically, would have, followed it up with, an executive bill immediately, an executive whistleblower protection bill, but that hasn't been done. So 8 years now, we have what we've been working on is just policy. So, and then the various sections of the policy have always been observed in the breach rather than, complete compliance of the policy itself. So what we have at the moment is a situation where, as you said, that going back to the question you asked, why is it that it's about the will, are we ready? And we are not showing it that we are really ready, because otherwise we can't still be talking of not having a whistleblower protection law.
When you say will, it cannot be all of us. Specifically, who are those drawing us back?
Yeah, the power holders, people who should, because it's something that can easily be done. If the government of the day wants a whistleblower protection law right this moment, they can have it. They control the National Assembly, they control everything. They can have the law. You know, I mean, how many days did it take to pass the some of these laws that were the Police Act
national,
and then
national anthem.
the national anthem, you know. So I mean, it just took less than 48 hours and then the thing was rolled out. So,
okay, so are you saying that right now they may not be seeing the importance as to it is not part of the agenda of the
of
administration
of course they know the importance, but it's still about the fact that, you know, this is mostly about us, you know, and then who will be at the receiving end of exposure if this deal is passed.
But it's about self-interest.
Yes. No, it's not. Yeah, it's not really about.
Not to sound like I'm making a case for the government. The EFCC chairman and the ICPC chairman on different fora, I've heard them say, "Look, we need whistleblower legislation." They are appointees of the current president, and meaning now I'm trying to balance. Is it that the person that appoints you or the federal government does not understand the urgency of what we're dealing with? Because the appointees are complaining that they need whistleblower to also function very well.
Yeah, but they don't push it. We don't see efforts on their part, you know, other than civil society efforts. We don't see, you know, concrete efforts on the part of those who say we need it, you know, to say, so what are they doing to ensure that we really have it? It's not, you know, it doesn't stop at, it's of no effect if you just come on air to say, we need it, or you mount a rostrum in public fora and say we need this thing. So what are the concrete efforts on the part of to say we need it?
Okay, so they should match action.
Yeah. So I mean, we are not seeing it. You know, they say it and they really need it, because I mean, you can't fight. People see wrongdoing. People see corrupt acts, you know, happening. They see something, you know, in various places, whether in their offices or any. They see it happen, but you know, they cannot, because
they need to be protected.
Yeah, sure. So they can't. So
right, let's move on from there. In a week's time, you'll be having a 2-day program for the sub-regional conference on whistleblowing and whistleblower legislation here in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So let's have you throw more light on the objective of this conference. What should Nigerians expect from this conference?
Yeah, the idea is to drive this campaign further. You know, to say that there is no way we can fight corruption without people, you know, coming out to say this is what is happening. You know, so we are organizing this 2-day sub-regional conference on whistleblowing and whistleblower protection in Nigeria, to get civil society actors, you know, the law enforcement, the media, the security, you know, development partners, government agencies to come together to brainstorm on how we can really ensure that there is a protection law, you know, in each of these countries along the West African sub, you know, to encourage people, you know, to come out and say this is a wrongdoing that I've observed here, and then they are also sure that there is, you know, a framework that protects them. So that's what we are trying to do with this, to bring different partners together, civil society. You know, it's a platform for the civil society and the anti-corruption agencies and law enforcement agencies to brainstorm and get an idea of how to really ensure that there is a protection law across, you know, each of these states. You know, apart from Ghana, so the Ghanaians should be there to give us their experience on the implementation of that law in their country so far. You know, so that's what we aim to do.
It seems like we are just children from the same ancestor or the same mother, but in a different country. How is it that in about 14 countries in the West African sub-region, only one has specific laws protecting whistleblowers? Some others, they may have something, a look-alike, that are not even seriously implementable.
Yeah.
What is holding West Africa back?
Yeah, it still boils down the same thing. It's poor leadership across board. West Africa has been identified. The ECOWAS sub-region, the ECOWAS region has been identified one of the most corrupt regions in the world. And then you see the effects of corruption in West Africa. It has leading to destabilization of some of these some West African countries. So, and then nothing is happening yet, to really say that, we really want to do this and fight this, this monster that has really held us back over many years since independence. So it still boils down to the political will of the leaders, the kind of leaders we have. So these are not selfless leaders. These are people who really want to protect their own interest and the interest of their own friends. So that's why they are not giving the citizens the power to say, there's a wrongdoing happening here, and then I can make the exposure, I can blow the whistle, and then I can be protected. So they are not just interested, but we keep pushing. The only way to do this is to keep engaging. There's no way we can force anything. You just keep advocating and engaging that this is important, this is necessary if we want to reduce, corruption, and then ensure a better life for people across the coast.
All right, so I wanted to come to maybe steps that you put in place to ensure that after the conference, whatever submission that is gotten from it is being, looked upon and not just lying fallow. But then, in a way, you sort of answered the question of keep advocating and keep pushing. How long do you think advocating and pushing for this particular? You said it yourself that we have leaders porously across the sub-region. So how long do you think this fight and push would? Don't you think at some point you would want to relent a bit?
No.
Try other strategy.
No, there is no in this campaign. There is no relenting. So we will form partnership across the sub-region with civil society organizations that are also into anti-corruption, and then government institutions that will. So we engage them and say this is very, very important. This is the best way. There is no better way to fight corruption. It's not you can't fight corruption through tax reform bills, through all of those other. The best way to fight corruption is to ensure that people who see wrongdoing are bold enough to come out to expose that wrongdoing and feel confident that at the end of the day they are protected in whatever they are not. There's no retaliation in any form against them. So it's very, very important.
Very important. I agree with you, because I know that if you don't expose these things and people bear the consequence, there is no deterrent. People will believe that it is just the merry-go-round. Yeah. And this is also the reason why over the years we have formed this serious partnership, strong partnership with AfricMe. At least I can remember that in the last 6 years we have been on a vigorous campaign on government to do something about whistleblower legislation. And I tend to wonder what will happen if AfricMe, Primorg, are not galvanizing or trying to push for the passage of whistleblower law or anti-corruption campaigns. It will be a banana republic. Yeah, sure. I am sure. So we will not relent. Relenting is not part of the.
It's not on the agenda. It's not an option
at all. So we'll continue to make this push because it's important that we get a better country. We don't have another country, and this one we have. It's also a good time to invite our listeners to join the conversation. It's about you. It's about our country. A corrupt system is devoid of development. It's devoid of any progress. In fact, the citizen will suffer. Yes, the people at the top end of the ladder, they also bear the brunt. But you at the down end of the ladder, you have serious problems because your roads will not be built. No basic amenities. So the brunt you bear is straight up, while their children can go abroad. It's a good time for you to join us.
And they should also know that when you keep quiet, Jenny, you are enabling this act to continue. So for you to join this conversation, please follow us on our social media platforms at Official Primorg. Primorg is spelled Primorg. Remember that we are streaming live on Facebook at Official Primorg.
And remember that this program is interactive. The WhatsApp phone line to send your message is 09022656167. That is 09022656167. This number is for messages only. Please begin to send your messages now to 09022656167. I want you to get involved. What do you know about whistleblowing? What do you make of whistleblowing as a tool to fight corruption? How do you think Nigeria has fared under whistleblower policy? Mr. Godwin will tell us more about that when we get back to him. What do you think is hindering the passage of whistleblower law in Nigeria and several other African countries? Would you still blow the whistle against corruption under the present circumstances of no protection? That is a thought for you and I. Why do you think the most countries in West Africa do not have specific laws protecting whistleblowers? And you can go to our Facebook page and drop a message there. It's at Official Primorg, all in one word, Official Primorg. You can speak about what contribute on what we are talking about, and also what do you think is this government agenda in terms of anti-corruption fight? What would be your suggestion on how we can utilize whistleblowing to reduce the rate of corruption in Nigeria? Well, let's get back to our guest. If you just join us, it is Public Conscience, a production of the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development, Primorg. And in the studio, we have Godwin Onyachelem, the Program Manager at African Center for Media and Information Literacy, AfricMedia. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
So I was going to ask you, truly, how much impact did whistleblower policy make in our climate? I know they were against, but how fast, how much has it been eroded by non-passage of whistleblower law?
Yeah, it has made significant impact. I mean, initially when it was introduced in December 2016, by the whole of 2017, I mean, people were enthusiastic. I mean, you could see people making reports, disclosures, sending reports, exposing different kinds of, corrupt practices, particularly the stealing of public funds looted and stashed away in different places. We saw recoveries were made, and then people were saying this is good. I mean, people then reckon that this is the best strategy so far in the fight against this corruption of all the anti-corruption strategies that have been implemented so far. This happens to be the getting people out to say, because it also goes with a reward system. So when you make a disclosure that leads to a recovery of sums of money, you are giving a certain percentage of that sum of money.
You think citizens were genuinely interested in the money that they will be refunded?
Yeah, there will be those who will be interested in the rewards, but when we advocate, we tell people not to focus on that reward. I mean, it's about just report wrongdoing and then do it patriotically, because you also, apart from a patriotic duty, it's a legal and moral duty. You are legally bound to report wrongdoing when you see one. Not reporting a wrongdoing when you see one, it's even like a crime. So they are bound to.
It's accomplice.
Yeah, so we encourage citizens. So when you see it, report it. So we tell people not to focus on the reward. In any case, there are one or two cases of people who are entitled to reward. When they made disclosures that led to recoveries, and then they were entitled to reward. They said, no, just keep the reward. I'm not interested. And this reward ran into tens of millions of, naira. So, and then they declined to accept the reward. There are cases like that, one or two cases that I am aware of, that I know of. So
So
What about reprisals? Because
yeah. So the thing is, like I said, I mean, when it started, people were enthusiastic, we were blowing the whistle, and it was. But when they started seeing that there was so much retaliation against people who made disclosures, and nothing happened to those against whom the whistle have been blown, nothing happened to them. So, but the people who blew the whistle, yeah. So all the people we have dealt with so far are public sector workers. Some of them have been suspended. Some were suspended. Some were sacked outrightly. Outright sacked. So, some were denied salaries, promotion, training, punitive posting, all kinds of retaliation that you see across board. So when their colleagues in offices, I mean, other workers see this, so we've been to an advocacy in one of the ministries here in Abuja where workers say, look, a lot is happening here, but we can't say it because we are not protected. So that's the kind of thing. So that's why the enthusiasm has significantly fallen. So the interest has declined so significantly in a way you can start saying whether does the policy still exist. Of course, it does still exist.
But people are not talking.
People, because there is no guarantee that you will be protected. There is no protection as it is. Even though the whistleblowing policy in Section 12 specifies protection for people who blow the whistle. That if you are facing retaliation, punishment in any form, we will protect you. But we have dealt with
in cases you have treated.
Yes. Over 7 cases.
Did that apply?
No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. No. So all of them were punished one way or the other. Some are still in courts. Some have been to courts and then got judgments, and things like that. We are reinstated. Even when you are reinstated and go back to work, the punishment still continues subtly until one or two that we dealt with also sought transfer from that office to another government office. Because otherwise, if you remain in that office, we are aware of a particular case where somebody was punished for exposing his boss in the office, and then, he didn't get his job back until he went to court. So when he got the job back and he went back to the same office, he was supposed to be promoted to a higher, and there was an opening for a particular, and he was supposed to take over that. But then his subordinate was promoted ahead of him because people were saying all over the place that this guy is a whistleblower, so don't. So that kind of punishment still continues. So we see it.
With all of this that has been happening, and with the fact that you've had to, intervene in some of these cases, and also it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So where are we currently with the legislation in Nigeria? Where are we with the push for this?
Okay, there is an executive bill as we speak, which the civil society worked on. Primorg, Africmail, we were all there, so we saw the bill. We had input. Ministry of Justice, the PICA, Presidential Initiative on Coordination also did, and various anti-corruption, all the anti-corruption. So we all had input there, So in the bill, so the bill is presently it was supposed to be passed by the last night assembly, but I think it was presented to the National Assembly, but it wasn't passed before that assembly wound up. So it's now being represented. So you have to represent it again. So it's now lying on the desk of the president, it's President Bola Tinubu. So the bill is on his desk as we speak now. So he has to represent it to the National Assembly, this current National Assembly, which they control anyway, which the government, the APC government controls. So if they want it passed today, it can be done.
I mean, from every analysis out there is that the president has a good rapport with the National Assembly. But any feelers on whether we are going to get this bill passed in no distant time?
It's difficult for me to say now because you really don't know what is going on. But we are trying to. I can't express any kind of confidence that this will be passed in the next 1 or 2 months, But all I know is that the bill is on the president's desk as we speak. So he has, the responsibility to send it to the National Assembly for passage. The bill will help him. It will also help him make, block some loopholes. If people are encouraged to report. That's why the circular that came out from the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation about people who report wrongdoing, who expose will go to jail. That's why that circular is unfortunate. So that's why you are criminalizing, the fundamental human rights of people to report wrongdoing. It's that bill, that memo effectively kills whistleblowing, and then FOI Act, that memo, because you are saying that no, don't report, if you see it, keep quiet, which is wrong.
This administration is over 17 months old. Well, what is your own summary of the anti-corruption fight? We've been hearing strong statements from the EFCC chairman and the ICPC. How moved are you? How reassured are you about anti-corruption fight under this administration?
I've not really seen any concrete fight against corruption. I've not, personally, I've not really, because.
What do you want to see that will make it concrete?
First of all, pass this bill immediately. Pass this whistleblower protection bill into law immediately. It's very, very important. Whistleblowing is the best way so far to fight. There's no other way you can fight corruption. Insiders must be involved in the fight against corruption. If you give insiders confidence that they will be protected, of course they will make reports and then make penalties stiff, very stiff, for people who are being found guilty of corrupt acts. Very stiff penalties. Otherwise, all the anti-corruption, there are so many anti-corruption laws that we have all over the place. They will be useless if penalties are not stiff, against people who have been found guilty of corrupt acts. So that's sad. So the best thing to do now, the first thing to do, is for the government to sum up the will and pass this bill immediately to protect people, citizens, to expose wrongdoing. It's very important.
And with that,
fight against corruption.
They will save more money. With that, they will save more money.
Many loopholes.
The current budget estimate for the next year, we are looking at about 40 trillion. So, and we are going to borrow a lot of this.
More than anyone else, the president needs it. This government needs that law to encourage people, because there are so many leakages. Corruption hasn't reduced in any way, in the country.
You can leave a message for us. Also, we will read your message out.
I'd like to come to Onyechelem. Let's get you react to. Do you think that this bill, when it's passed into law, that it has a way of impacting on the other regions in the West African group?
That is a ripple effect from Nigeria. Can Nigeria be that shining light, that example that other African countries can cling on?
Oh, sure, yeah, because of the Nigeria's profile it's the biggest first, the richest in the sub-region, and then the biggest, in the sub-region, So it's definitely going to rub off on. So I was expecting that at the time the president was ECOWAS chairman, he would be in.
He's still.
I think somebody else has taken over, I will have to find out that. I was expecting that at that time he would have just said, okay, let us implement this ECOWAS, fight against ECOWAS protocol on the fight against corruption. I mean, he would have led the way in doing that, so to ensure that. And a key component of that protocol on the fight against corruption was the enactment of whistleblower protection laws across West African sub-regions. Yes, I expected that the president would have taken the lead, and then he would have to say, okay, summon his fellow heads of state to say, we need this, and we do so. I mean, but it didn't happen. Yes, I believe that had Nigeria passed the law, or if Nigeria passes the law today, it could galvanize, action in other African and sub countries in the sub-region.
Perhaps his priorities could be that hunger is ravaging the sub-region, insecurity is ravaging his the sub-region, and this one took a backseat on presenting anti-corruption fight, like projected hunger, starvation, and insecurity in the region more than anti-corruption fight.
Hunger, instability, insecurity, what is fueling it? It is still corruption. The corrupt acts perpetrated at the very top. At the very top. You might say, okay, yeah, fine. I mean, there is still corruption at the lower level, but then it's people are inspired by what they see at the top, to carry out all kinds of negative acts. So when people demonstrate personal example of leadership that are attractive to, of course they will, but then if they also demonstrate negative examples of leadership, it rubs up on the people at the lower level. So that's when people see that they have a government that is serious to fight corruption, they will key in. So people were on their own when government said we need you to fight this corruption because we can't do it alone. So that was the reason for the whistleblowing policy. Whistleblowing policy is simply saying, inviting citizens to join the fight against corruption. And that's what citizens do. But when citizens do it and you retaliate against them, they will be discouraged.
And some analysts say that was just a move to get Nigeria to secure more money from the international community. I don't know where your own argument is placed. Esther, you want to clarify something? You want to clarify on the leadership of ECOWAS?
Is it still Bola Tinubu?
Yeah, it is still. So if you still,
the ball is still honestly, in his court to make this push.
To be courageous enough to demonstrate that that fatherly interest in seeing the citizens of his own country and other countries have a better life. You can't say, okay, let's protect these people, by ensuring that they can report wrongdoing and be protected. So I mean that's.
You can join us. We still have some time to take a call. It's about whistleblowing, and what is your own thinking about how we can reduce the fight against corruption in Nigeria? Sometimes some of us tend to tune off when we talk about fight against corruption because so much talk and you see few actions there, but we must continue talking about it.
I think that people get away with a lot of things, People who are, been found guilty of corruption are not. Most people get away. Like I gave an example of the public sector whistleblowers that we dealt with. All the organs that they reported, none of them was punished. So, and then the duty to report wrongdoing can only be enhanced when people who report wrongdoing see that you have punished the man who was reported.
It will start making sense.
Yes. But they don't punish them. So rather, they come after the messenger. They attack the messenger, punish the messenger in every way imaginable. But then the people who were reported, who stole the public funds, who looted public funds, who perpetrated wrongdoing, get away with it. So nothing happened. So in all the cases that we have seen, nothing happened to the organs. In some cases, we have come across reports by the anti-corruption agencies saying that so boss, is found guilty and he will be prosecuted. Nothing happens. The report is just lying down there.
How can we get citizens to be, to be above board? How can we get them interested to begin to, seek ways so that this bill can be passed, so that we can have a law that would equally protect them in the long run? That citizens are not engaged in all of this process, just civil society and maybe ICPC and yes.
Yeah. So it's the duty in a capitalist country like we have, it's really mostly the duty of civil society, journalists, and public interest lawyers that fight corruption. The people at the top, because it's a capitalist state, they are not interested So don't expect that they will fight corruption here. It's the job of civil society, journalists, and lawyers that are interested in improving, citizen welfare that will fight corruption. So to get citizens involved, we need to continue to engage citizens through meetings, inviting them, talking about this corruption. We cannot completely kill corruption, but we can reduce it. And the only way to reduce it significantly is to keep talking about it, just as we are doing now.
Absolutely. You know very well that what is sure is that we will continue to do this advocacy and see what will come out of it. But let me ask this honest question. You say the bill is on the table of Mr. President.
Sure.
So we are waiting action from the Mr. President.
Exactly.
And if he does anything positive, it will go straight to the National Assembly for their own part before he will assent. Who should we be pushing or talking to right now as civil society organizations and citizens?
Well, the custodian of the bill as it is now is the Federal Ministry of Finance. So when we want to engage, so we engage the Federal Ministry of Finance, who in turn will engage the presidency. Yes, because it was the Federal Ministry of Finance that represented the bill to the to the presidency for passage to the National Assembly this time. So we will have to keep talking to the Federal Ministry of Finance to say, where are we on this bill? Only recently, I think it was last month, the minister there was a sensitization workshop on whistleblowing, at which the minister appeared, the Honorable Minister appeared and promised that the bill will be passed very soon. It was shortly after that meeting, a couple of days after that sensitization workshop, last month, that the bill was sent to the presidency.
Okay, let's take this call and know what. Hello? Hello. Good morning. Your name and where you're calling from? Okay, Charles. Let's hear your contribution in 1 minute.
I really wish to commend your guest, in the house.
Okay.
Doing a very good analysis and with the expectation and the hope that the leadership, the countries, the present government will be able to do a bit better than what they've done so far in terms of learning to tackle corruption. But permit me to say, I want to still give it to about 99, the former president, President Olusegun Obasanjo, 99. Almost all the anti-corruption agency has set up. It was a vision. And if people do not drive or carry out the mandate of the objective of setting up all these agencies to tackle this corruption, I think we won't be where we are today. I have not seen any government after that night, for 99 to today. I have not seen any president that has fought corruption the way Obasanjo did. And don't forget, this corruption led to people that took money from the coffers of government. Some days back, the spokesperson of the president came out, to defend, to tackle the former president, in terms of, the advice, because whatever the elder statesman said was simply supposed to be taken as a word advice. But the spokesperson that's supposed to be at the humane to a point where in some ways that we very executive, the man or Olusegun Obasanjo, supposed to be. And to us, that is what corruption, because you are simply trying to defend your boss. You don't want your boss to be. These are democratic rules, governance, and where people are bound to come out to say what they feel, and you take the MP and go back to the drawing board and do what they are doing well.
All right.
The country. So to my mind, I think we need to do better than what we are doing in terms of fighting corruption. If not, the country will keep going down the road. God help us and God help all of us as we continue to pray for better now.
All right. God help us, and I can agree with you more that we need to do better than we are doing. As we begin to wrap up, Mr. Godwin, what is sure here is that we need to advance from where we are if we are going to be taken serious in the Committee of Nations. What is your advice to the President Bola Tinubu government as we go into this conference concerning whistleblower legislation and whistleblower law, and also the citizen? You conclude with the citizen.
Okay, it's for the president to take immediate steps. We are appealing to him to take immediate steps to send the bill to the National Assembly and ensure, a quick passage of the whistleblower protection bill into a law. So as for the citizens, I mean, they should be ready to do their duty as citizens, as enshrined in in sections 22 of the Nigerian Constitution, to render assistance law enforcement agencies in the performance of their duties. And the way to render assistance is to report wrongdoing. So citizens have a legal and moral duty to report wrongdoing when they see one. And they should remember that whistleblowing is not just about, exposing corruption. It's also their right. It's a right of free expression that deserves full protection.
Very well said. And from our own part, Primorg, let me also tell you that we are collaborating with AfricMail on this. We are pushing for the enactment of a whistleblower legislation in Nigeria. We want it passed. We want whistleblowers to be protected, and we will stop at nothing to continue to, do this advocacy. And we want you all to join us. Nigeria is our country, and we have no other place to, go to apart from here.
All right.
And this is how we'll be wrapping up on today's program.
All right. Please visit our news website, primorgnews.org. That is primorgnews.org. For all the details of our reports and interviews, visit our website, www.primorg.org, to get all the information about Primorg.
And you can watch our videos on Primorg TV, our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get reminders when we have a new post. We appreciate our guest, the program manager at African Center for Media and Information Literacy, AfricMail.
Thank you.
Godwin Onyachalan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining us today on this program. Public Conscience has the support of the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. Get more information about the foundation on its website, macfound.org.
Join us again here next week for another episode of Public Conscience, and remember to follow us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, at Official Primorg. I am Esther Bassi.
Remember that birth registration and birth certificates are free if your child is under 18. Help stop the corruption in birth registration and do not pay for birth certificates. Also, remember that you can give us information or hints about corrupt acts through our phone at 09022 656167 or info@primorg.org. I am Chidozie Obonnaya. Stay safe.